Hello. I can't say welcome because you live here, but welcome to the stage at least.
Thanks so much.
Take it away, RJ.
So after following Google and following Spotify, it's a bit humbling to be here with a small company in Barcelona and talk about what we're doing. And another big company phone, sorry. So as Ola mentioned, my name is RJ Friedlander. I founded, with two other people, ReviewPro. And what I'm going to do today, Ola asked me to talk a little bit about why I decided to leave a big company and move to the entrepreneurial world. Then I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing and where we're going. So the idea of starting a company for me was something that I've had in my mind really since I started my career, right? And in fact, over the years, I've been involved in a number of startups, both as an investor or on a board. And so it was something I always loved. And in fact, within Grupo Planeta, I had started a few companies. But what I felt like was I was waiting for that big opportunity. And I'd done things in the B2C space with Planeta. But in a prior life, within a big media company, I was always working in the B2B space. So I always liked B2B businesses. I was always looking for the big opportunity. And in 2007, we were involved in looking at investing in social media. We're looking at 20 and some other things. And so in that process, what I started to see was it was very difficult to know who the winners were going to be in the social media space, right? At that time, it was Bebo or Classmates, et cetera, right? And so what I saw was the winners in that space were difficult to anticipate. But what I believed to be the sure winner was user-generated content and the impact of user-generated content and the influence that was going to have on a number of different sectors. So the idea came up for ReviewPro, which is basically online reputation, social media analytics. It's a B2B company. We offer our product through a software as a service model, specifically to the hotel sector. And so in 2007, I saw this was sort of my bingo moment. And what I thought, this can really be a €100 million business. Let's go for it, right? Also, there was the side of this journey that was, when you're working in a big group, and I was very fortunate because Planet is a fantastic group. It afforded me a lot of opportunities to, a lot of flexibility. But in the end, what happens is, and I had a couple companies we set up that failed, that it was always, if the company fails, it's always because you're a douchebag. If a company goes well, it's always because you work in a really big company, and of course things go on a really big company. So I had this sense, or this need to do something sort of more to, I say control, you never really control your destiny, but to have it a little bit more in my hands, right? And this idea to roll the dice and really try to build something that was not only big, but profitable. Well, and again, in the terms of my predecessors here, nothing is big, but you get the point. Right, so there's another issue too. I'm American, obviously with this accent. I'm not an Oprah follower, but this next point that I'm going to say is going to sound a little Oprah-ish. But I always really felt like a dreamer. I always felt, hey, listen, in a country where Bill Clinton comes from a trailer park and becomes the president of the country, anything's possible, right? So, I always had this dream that I really could do something. And I really, not only these dreams, but I really thought I could make it happen, right? And the other thing is obviously the hard work. And in the end, I'm not, sort of, let's call it the huevos to actually go for it. So that was really what was behind it. And in the end, life is short. I was 43 years old when I started this, so I wasn't getting any younger. And so this was sort of the backstory of why we started the project. So what do, right? Basically, what we're doing is we're giving hotels an answer to one of the biggest trends to impact the hotel sector in recent years. And that's basically the influence of user-generated content, whether it's reviews, Twitter, Facebook, now Foursquare is starting to have more and more, you can leave a review, you can leave comments. So there's all this content out there, and what we're doing is basically we're aggregating all that content, and in the end what we are is an analytics company, and we provide our clients the analytics, the customer or business intelligence, competitive benchmarking, and reporting that allows them to manage more effectively and drive revenue growth, right? So we started commercializing the product in September of 2009, and since then we've grown to 2,000 hotels in 35 countries using our products. So in the B2B space and in software, we're really proud of that growth. And I'll also mention, In terms of funding, there's no VCs. The company was funded originally by myself and by other friends and people that I knew from the industry. So we're let's call it fairly well-funded independent company, right? This gives you an idea of some of our clients. We, in Spain, some of the top brands and chains, from Solmelia, Iberostar, USA, et cetera. We also work with small independent hotels. So one of the really cool things about this space is the opportunities, not just the big international properties, but also our smallest hotel is the Abac Hotel here in Barcelona, which has 17 rooms. So the opportunity here, we believe, is spectacular, and right now we're focusing on taking advantage of that. So in terms of what we do, I'll go over this really quickly. We gather from review sites. So you've got review sites like a Trapelo, obviously TripAdvisor, Booking, et cetera, et cetera. We gather today almost 100 million reviews in 10 languages, and then on top of that, Facebook, Twitter, and all the major social media platforms. And what we do is we gather all that information, and we generate analytics. And those analytics are to help basically hotels in a couple different areas. It's obviously in sales and marketing and managing their brand, but it really goes way beyond that, and that's why we've been growing, and I believe that the next 6 months are going to be even more significant, our growth rate, because reviews are going basically to the core of the hotel business. Because in the end, reviews are a measure of guest satisfaction, and guest satisfaction has a direct link or correlation to the price that people are willing to pay and which hotel they choose, right? So the product itself it's a product that has 3 versions. There's a version that's 99 euros a month, a version that's 149 euros, and a version that's 199 euros, so it's not an expensive product. And it gives these 3 things, so reporting, alerts, and access to the data. Okay, so really quickly, why do hotels need this? Basically, the hotel industry has always had a mentality of trying to measure guest satisfaction or guest feedback. So, you've got the typical old school cards. They do mystery shopping. They do a lot of things to try to understand customer experience and try to improve it. It turns out that this is a much more efficient, much more important, and especially the information that we're gathering and analytics we're giving has much more influence on a consumer, because they say today up to 80% of consumers, before they book a hotel, they're reading these reviews. So it's really critical. So we give them, in effect, sort of a 24/7 mystery shopper, where we identify where the problems are, we indicate where they need to improve, and we give them the ability to track that improvement both on a quantitative basis through a number of different indexes, and also qualitative analytics, which is semantic analysis, where what we do is we mine what's being said in the reviews, and we give them the ability to basically know if someone's complaining in detail about the breakfast or some specific attribute. The other thing, too, is we've completely changed what it means to have competitive benchmarking in the hotel sector, right? Because today, with our technology and with the analytics, it's basically, in effect, as if a hotelier can read the guest or the customer service questionnaires of their competitors. So this is really a breakout moment in terms of competition. And in the end, and this is something that I suspected when we started, but in fact, it turned out to be much more than I'd even ever hoped, was the correlation between guest satisfaction indexes and the ability to sell and convert in their own website and through online distribution is spectacular, right? So in the end, this is going right to the core of the revenue, right? So right now, today we have 2,000 hotels around the world using our product, and what we've always done up to now, there's a couple competitors in our space. We've had fantastic results when we compete with them. Right now, we're the largest company in Europe. We're starting to expand to the US. So we've always had a culture and a focus on product. And that focus on product and that obsession for innovation, and especially innovation driven by feedback from our clients, everybody talks about this. I've never heard of any entrepreneur in any area that doesn't say what they do is based on their clients. But it was interesting because nobody in my company has worked for a hotel, which is a little bit, for me at least, it's a little bit ironic. We've got the leading technology in the world in a space where nobody's actually set foot in a hotel other than to sleep there. And so what happened was the fact that we didn't know the sector, it forced us and compelled us to really listen. And so that was very fortuitous, and we'll continue to maintain that obsession about product innovation. The other thing we're doing is we're expanding. Today we're in 35 countries. By the end of July, we'll be offering our service in 55 countries. Today we offer review analytics in 10 languages. And we're rolling out in Chinese, Japanese, Russian, and Arabic between now and the end of July. And this has proven to be a huge competitive advantage as well, because we can offer large chains the coverage and the analytics that they need. And we've also started just recently to focus on what I call internally, it's the first time I've ever put it in a slide, sort of this Intel Inside approach. Meaning that the hotel sector, whether it's technology, you've got booking engines, you've got companies that do websites. Obviously, the hotel sector is an immense industry, and there's a lot of companies offering technology and services there. And what we're starting to do is partner with many of them. Yesterday, it was probably our biggest announcement ever that after a 6-month process, Sabre Hospitality Solutions, which is one of the largest companies worldwide in the hospitality sector, they selected us as their worldwide technology partner, and they're going to be reselling our products. So that was something that there was a lot of work behind that, and we're really proud to that's officially kicked off as of yesterday. And then we're signing deals and partnering. So again, if you're going to start a company, I had a conversation with someone today that's starting a company in the software as a service space, and he mentioned something about going through distributors. I took an approach from the beginning that I didn't want to spend my time and put my destiny in the hands of someone else that hopefully would sell my product. We focus much more on a direct model, and that seems to be working really well. And if anyone's either planning to start a company or wants to discuss that, I'd be happy to do so. And then where we go from here is basically we have 2,000 hotels using our service. And in the next couple of years, we believe that we can get to and exceed 10,000 hotels. So we continue to be ambitious in terms of where we think this can go. A few things that I've learned along the way. It's surprising to me how many people start companies that they don't really think about the customer, right? Or if they think about the customer, they think about it in the same terms that 1 or 2 or 5 other people or other companies are already thinking about it. And so one of the things that we did, and I think was a big part of our success to date, was the fact that we always tried to do things differently. We didn't follow our competitors. If they went this way, and in fact, the way we launched, the value proposition that we launched was completely different than our competitors. They all bet for social media. We bet for review analytics because we believe that was really more impactful. So I think that's something that I would encourage you to do. The issue of relationships, this seems to be obvious, or I guess it is obvious, but there's nothing that we've succeeded in that isn't because of good relations, whether it's with our clients or with partners or with friends. Excuse me. So, I think it is really critical, this issue, and I think a lot of companies fail in this area. They underestimate. Excuse me. The other thing, too, is customer satisfaction has always been obvious, right? But today we live in a world where that's more obvious and more critical than ever because it's very difficult to hide, right? We live in a world that as individuals, as professionals, or as companies, if we're mediocre or crappy, it's a tough place to be because it's very quickly everybody figures this out. So, I think this obsession in startups about customer satisfaction, service, are things that a lot of times get overlooked. A last point is that I always worked in companies that were very, very analytically driven. And I had one of my first bosses used to always tell me, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, right? And so oftentimes what happens, I think, in startups or early stage companies is there's this mentality of, sure, we need to manage, or we need to measure things, but we'll do it when we get a little bigger, right? And what I would encourage you is that's a big mistake because as you start to grow, it's very difficult to change the focus. And with regards to partners, whether that's partners when you're setting up the company, whether that's investors, it's really, really critical to focus on not only who, but the structure of the agreements that you come to. And when I listen to a lot of entrepreneurs, they seem to be obsessed about the percentage of company they have, the valuations after funding. And okay, sure, this is important, but in my opinion, it's a lot more important what it says in the shareholder agreement, right? So really be careful. And as someone told me once, it's much easier to get a divorce than it is to get rid of a partner in your company. So keep that in mind and do things, choose accordingly. The last point that I'll leave you with is that I've been completely blown away by how much work this is. I should have been prepared and had it crystal clear. So I think any startup, the amount of work is going to be greater than you anticipate. And what happens is you have this constant ebb and flow of emotion. You know, great things happen and they seem really great, and you're up here one day. The next day something happens and you're back down here. So I think it's really critical to try to take a little bit more moderate path of obviously celebrate the good things, but take it a little more moderately. And I won't tell the anecdote, but if anyone has not heard the story of the Taoist farmer, I would suggest if you do a search of the Taoist farmer, you'll read it. But basically, what they talk about is that the issue of what appears to be bad news or what appears to be good news oftentimes isn't. So take things with a little more moderation. What can happen one day and seem like the worst thing possible, in my personal experience, what I'm seeing is oftentimes a week later, it actually turned out to be the best thing possible. So with that, I'll leave you, and thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much.